into this entrepreneurship. I started my own company, and since then I've been continuously starting company both in China and in the US and later on in China. So now for 30 some years now. But in the last 10 years, my focus and my entrepreneurial effort is focused on education, primarily K to 12. So obviously, by now you're all aware that, AI is a new revolution. But the question is, do you know how this revolution is different from the previous technology revolution, right? So for the parents, in the audience, you probably have experienced the internet revolution, right? Or at least the mobile internet revolution. Obviously, you heard of and you're aware of this before that, right? So there's the steam engine, the electricity, and also the computer, particular personal computer revolution. All this came before now. And the main difference, which I will continue to elaborate on, is that the AI revolution is drastically different. If you look at the previous revolution, the revolution kind of brought us new tools, right? So, for example, with computer, well, computer is a tool, right? But human is still in charge. We use the tool to do things faster, make things better. But we are still the one that the intelligence behind and using those tools. Now, how AI revolution is different is that the AI revolution brought us human level skills, right? So AI can now use tools, just like we can use tools. We use computer to program, and with the focus of this class, vibe coding. Now, computer can use now AI can use the computer to do programming as well. So obviously you use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can write essays, and you have this autonomous vehicle. Well, the vehicle itself is a tool, right? So they take you to one place, another place fast. But the AI driver, right? That's the AI, is the one that uses the tool. So that is really the core difference that marks AI revolution drastically different than the previous, technology revolution we have seen. More specifically, in this revolution, in this AI, we say that AI now is disrupting the disruptor. So if you look back a little bit longer time horizon, right? So, well, obviously started from the personal computer, software has always been the disruptor. So if you say the internet, well, the internet is software, right? So obviously the internet disrupt many things, new opportunities, and there's a lot of old business, die because of that. So software always played the role of disruptors. Now, the problem is, on the same time, the opportunity lies in that now AI is disrupting software development itself. So if you look at, so that lead to this vibe coding concept, right? So generative AI now can actually create software. With the what do you call the AI agent, it can create software. In fact, it can create other AI agents as well. So since software is a disruptor, now you have things that can actually disrupt software. That things, the vibe coding can actually create software. So we expect, you start seeing that now. The impact is kind of snowballing, right? So we believe the impact is exponential. And well, obviously you're in the workshop, so you felt like this is relevant to you, and the question is why, right? So, I think in the very bottom, very basic level, whether you're college students or you're preparing to go to college, many parents ask me, well, what should my student do now? Should they prepare, right? Particularly, I talk to a lot of students, learning computer science or in this area. Well, obviously the job is drastically changing. So I think this is a quote, your job is not replaced by AI, but by people who use AI. There's various form of this phrase was spoken by Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. So that's true. So it's not AI that takes your job. It's people or company or the people that knows how to use AI the best that are taking your jobs, right? So, and that's really the drastic transformation on the workforce, is that AI now becoming so important and so much embedded in every single job that if you're not literate with that, well, you'll be left behind. Now, unfortunately, obviously many school or many students, in fact, start using AI in schools and for various things, but the education system itself is disconnected. By education system, what I meant is that the thing that the schools teach the thing that school teaching you, and the subject, right? And what you learn, and obviously how you learn it, maybe there's some impact AI, but more specifically, what you learn, is disconnected. So the focus of this workshop in the next 20 some minutes, um, I want to talk a little bit about the real impact of generative AI, particularly around this, vibe coding framework. And then the question is, what are the opportunities lie ahead of us? And then giving this opportunity, how does a student develop a skill that would prepare them for this new opportunity? Um, and then how you develop that, and linking to that, obviously, I'll be teaching a new class, so we'll talk a little bit what this class is. So many of you are programmers. Many of you, well, many of the people, your parents, some of you are software engineers, students how to learn programming. And I think most of you are familiar with software 1.0, what is known as symbolic AI. So basically, you using a programming language, right? Python, C++, whatever it's Java. You teach the computer how you solve a certain problem, right? So you say, oh, here's a step that will solve the problem. You teach the computer. So you're teaching computer how you do solve the problem. Software 1.0. So that software 1.0 has been around since the beginning of the computer, the invention of computer. Now, software 2.0, rather recent, what we call the neural network approach. So neural network itself has been, exists for a long time, right? When I went to Stanford, there was already neural network. It actually was first started, the research in the 50s. So, but neural network, given the lack of compute, was not very useful until the last 10, 15 years. I would say we can stretch back a little bit to, let's say, 15 years. When there's significant compute where neural network become useful. So software 2.0 is that you don't really need to teach the computer how to solve problem. You just feed them data, right? The neural network will learn how to solve the problem, right? So that's a big step. And there obviously there's many powerful application for the neural network approach, from autonomous vehicle, image understanding, language understanding, right? Natural language processing, which lead to this transformer model that, with the ChatGPT. But more recently, I would say literally, less than 2 years. In fact, obviously, when it came out when ChatGPT came out, there's a co-pilot with GitHub. So now software 3.0, I would say the longest you can stretch it is about 3 years ago. It's now large language model, AI agent that built on based on large language now can create software. So you can actually have the agent creating software. Not only that, you don't have to program the computer to teach them what to do. You don't need to really program it in the traditional sense anymore. But so that will be the focus for the today. So, and Ajit Kapathy, which is one of the co-founder of OpenAI, at least one of the early members of OpenAI, one day did a tweet and explaining what he's doing with um, talking to an AI agent and have it generate code. And then he kind of gave the name of vibe coding. So vibe coding at the very foundational level, what is really you use natural language, right? Instead of C++ and Python, and you just say, I haven't learned that. You use a natural language, English, Chinese, and have a conversation with AI. And instead of telling the AI what to do, you more explaining instead of telling how to do it, you explaining what you want. So sometimes instead of vibe coding, I would say the more accurate, because vibe coding, the phrase a little bit vague, it's intent driven, right? Intent programming. So you kind of tell the AI your intent, what you want to do. So in this way, you're really creating a partnership with AI. So think of AI agent as a team member, right? A programming team member in your team. You are kind of like a product marketing manager or project manager. You decide, or at least you articulate what you want to build, and the AI agent, which are part of your software team, build it. So it's really, it's AI agent now can create software, or in fact, it can create other AI agent. So why is becoming so? If you look at, I look at the top 10 AI agent company in terms of revenue. The top three, I believe, of the top 10 are AI agent that actually has to do with coding. And the reason for that, you can think a little bit more, particularly students or parents have background in software engineering. Computer language, in fact, is a perfect language for AI to learn. It's not so natural for human to learn, right? A particular syntax, really rigid, it kind of does things that, if you miss something, it does something wrong. If you say something, misspell something, something wrong. But that structure, both in terms of the form and in terms of the output, is great for computer to learn. And plus, there's abundant of data, right? In order for the language model to learn anything, you need data. Obviously, not as much data as the whole, natural English literature, but plenty of data in GitHub. So, and furthermore, a language model itself is also, by itself, by definition, right? You can actually talk to a natural language. So that gives this whole thing now, you can use natural language to talk to the language model for it to generate computer language. So I want to just clarify this a little bit, right? So AI now, in this new form of software engineering, it has two roles, right? It has dual role. So obviously, we have been using AI, programming AI as the brain of the software. But now AI also plays a role of developer. So this is what we call the dual roles of AI, right, in software development. So AI is a developer. The software that AI developed also use AI as the brain. So which really becoming much more significant. So the reason why we care about, so we say, why do you care about vibe coding? Why is vibe coding, again, just take that as a loosely, it's a phrase, right, for this kind of whole area of AI agent generating software. Why is vibe coding so important? Is because going back to the point, right? Software has always been the disruptor. That means, so if you look at the recent history of company, right? Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, all the companies you can think of, right? They're all software companies. They all started, after the personal computer, particularly a lot of them started after the internet. So software are in fact the one that actually drive innovation. So you think, well, vibe coding creates software. So, it's natural now to understand that vibe coding, right, or this AI creating software AI is what we call the innovation enabler. So how, I want to kind of give you the little bit more perspective or what the significance of that, right? So obviously we're all content consumers, right? We all watch, well, we watch YouTube, but a lot of them you watch YouTube now. But before that, you watch TV, you watch movies, and so on, right? So when YouTube came, and particularly now when TikTok came, right? Whether in US and China, many of us, from content consumer, we now are content creators, right? And many people create YouTube content, right? And obviously many more create TikTok content. So you from consumer to creator. The same thing for software, right? So many of us are software consumers. We use software. So I think it's hard to find someone, any of you now not using software at all, right? So now vibe coding enable us go from software consumer or software user to software creator. So all of us who can create, who can use software, who are using software today, can now create software. So just imagine, right? So, going back to the point, software is always, it's an innovation enabler, right? It's a catalyst for innovation. So then, that's the relevance, right? So we can think vibe coding will enable a new wave and a new form of innovation. So that ties to this whole concept of how the economy is transforming, right? So obviously for thousands of years, we're in the goods economy. We're still in the goods economy, right? So, someone produce food things like foods, and someone, produce other things. And obviously now you have monetary system. Before that, you can just go exchange it. So the good economy has existed for a long time. It will continue to exist. Now, the knowledge economy, I would say only relevant. Obviously, there's always knowledge before that, but as an economy, only relevant for, I would say, for the last 50 years, maybe 70 years, right? Particularly with, with the computers involved. So the reason why, we'll go to college, because we need to acquire substantial, well, go to school and then college, substantial level of knowledge and experience in order to perform in jobs, right? So that, but that would change. because I will explain to you why that would drastically change. Now, in fact, we start talking. In fact, the first time I heard of this word innovation economy was from I think that someone's one of the chief of innovation or something from LinkedIn. So he talked about innovation economy. So innovation economy is really where, well, it's no longer, well, obviously knowledge is important. It's really driven by how you can identify ability, right? So knowledge economy is how much knowledge you have and how you apply the knowledge to solve problems, right? Now, the innovation economy is how do we identify opportunity? How do we identify a problem that has not been solved but is important to be solved? And then how do you create, innovative creators? How do you create innovative solutions that can solve the problem? And AI would drastically change that. So then question, I will explain to you what the impact of AI is and why they would drive this innovation economy. So what is innovation, right? So people say, oh, well, innovations are really big things. Only large company kind of does that. That's not true. If you look at all this really huge company now, right? Amazon, YouTube, and Facebook, they all started out as well as an individual or as a very small team solving a problem that they really care about, right? So Amazon initially, I believe, was they trying to buy and sell rare books. Rare books, you can imagine in the old economy, right? If you want to buy and sell rare books, very difficult, right? Because they already have not many, and you are in Arizona, the rare book in someone have it in San Francisco, difficult to connect them. So well, they started with that, a very precise idea, someone maybe a niche market, but there's a need, right? And then finally now you know what Amazon is doing. Same thing, YouTube. YouTube was started out one of the founder want to share a video, I believe it's a video of a cat, and he found it very difficult. He just want to share with his friends. Very difficult to do that. So he said, okay, we need to find a better way to share things. So this whole concept of broadcast yourself. And then Facebook, if you watch the movie, it started with some social needs, right? When Zuckerberg is Harvard. So they all started with a personal interest or something that dear to the founders. And then they find a technical solution and then it's scale. So, but one of the key things I also want to drive, to home is that AI has been important for many, many years. So it's not suddenly the last 2 or 3 years AI has been important. But so company like Amazon, Facebook, Google, they have been using AI and researching AI for the last, at least 30, maybe even longer, right? How many years, right? Some of the companies not as so as 30 years old. But what I said, AI has been confined to the elite group, right? Large company, Fortune 500, they have a lot of money. They can leverage what they created, right? For monetize it. But nothing to do with you and me, right? So the student in high school, what can you do with AI? You don't have enough computer. You have to you don't know how to train a neural network. But now with which started with ChatGPT, now there's obviously many different language models. Now it becomes what I call open access playground. So for I pay $25 a month on one of the coding agents. I pay another $20 for OpenAI. Within a $50 type of kind of budget every month, there's many things you can do, right? So become a literally is open access. It's you can think of them. It's no longer elite. Now, the reason why I call it playground is that I do encourage you go in there to play, and I will come back to that. So now inside this playground, right? Or you can call it playground, you can call it the Wild West, but obviously it's not as not as I wouldn't say not as nice as you would imagine like Disneyland, but there's a lot of if people start playing with AI, that there's a lot of rough edges, a lot of difficulty challenges, but it's an area that you can go play and you can claim your piece of land. So you may think a Wild West is a more appropriate description, but this is where the future innovation would happen, right? So, and AI, accelerate innovation, but also it actually change what we call from, if you look at past, innovations are all huge, right? So eventually, I mean, maybe it started small, but eventually all large innovation, right? So like steam engines, the internet, all those things. And what I start seeing, right, is that so that obviously those big breakthrough doesn't happen every day, every week. It happens every few years, maybe every decade. But with AI-enabled innovation, we should start seeing much more rapid, more frequency of this innovation. Um, as well as they might be smaller scale, right? So what we call micro innovation. But does not make the innovation more less relevant because there's, obviously there's huge problem to be solved, right? But day to day, there are a lot of smaller problems that can be solved if you find a good way to solve it, even personal problem to be solved. If you can leverage AI to solve it, that would have a huge impact. Now, particularly from the student point of view, AI, with this rapid innovation model, it allows you to fail fast, but you learn faster. So that's really, if you look at the class that, I had for the last several years, I really encourage students to, in this exploration and discovery mode, they should not be afraid of to explore and fail. Because when you fail, if you're smart, you certainly learn, right? If you fail fast, and then you learn obviously faster. So given that, right, given this whole new world is changing, and definitely by the time you finish college in the workforce, it would change. So what are the skills that you should acquire while by yourself or when you're in college? I believe that I kind of put them in three different categories. So, while the last category, entrepreneurship, in terms of mindset, you can think of that. That's also part of the first one. Obviously, what I call a uniquely human skill. While AI is very good with a lot of things, right? But AI is still not good at a lot of things that human do well, and all innately human. So I would give you some example, elaborate that. The second one, you need to learn how to collaborate AI, or in the bigger kind of frameworks is well learning AI literacy, right? So AI, it would not go away. How do you use AI as a collaborator, as a partner? That would become more really important, right? So as Jensen Huang mentioned, so your job is not replaced by AI, it's replaced by people who use AI. People can collaborate well with AI. And then finally, entrepreneurial mindset. I want to kind of, kind of separate, point it out, is in fact a unique ability that a human have, because that is really drive the mindset that would drive innovation. So very quickly, I want to just go through this. So uniquely human, right? So if AI is already, reading books, memorizing things, solving problem that's been solved before, right? Taking tests, AI is very good with those. In fact, it will only would get better, right? So, but AI is not good at a lot of things that we take it for granted sometimes, or we call it innately human. Empathy, right? So empathy, obviously, you say, okay, obviously, what use empathy? Empathy is really useful, not only as a human, but also if you look at design thinking, right? If you look at, innovation and creativity, empathy, in fact, is a really powerful skill. Critical thinking, right? So not happy with what you're seeing, being able to criticize that. And creativities, problem discovery. AI is very good if you tell them a problem to solve. But AI, well, now you may do better, in the future. But AI is not, at least at this point, right? It can go into scientific discovery modes, right? Continue. But AI is not very good at still very discovering, asking new questions, new problems, right? And obviously, the last thing about ethic and value. I will come back to entrepreneurial mindset separately. So human judgment. How do you create, things that is good for the society? So the human, what is sometimes called a soft skill, becoming more important than hard skill. AI literacies, right? So in order to collaborate, it's really important. Hopefully you wouldn't argue against that. That it's really important to be able to collaborate with AI. That means need to communicate. In order to collaborate, you need to communicate. AI need to understand you. You need to understand AI. So what we call the AI literacy. So computational thinking, and at the foundation level, as well as the neural network, and all this thing that do with how the AI brain works. You need to build a basic literacy of that. Otherwise, you have a hard time talking to AI. Just imagine you're talking to a student from France or Japan. If you have no idea about where they came from, the culture, or how they raise a background, well, you have a difficulty talking to them. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial mindset. Say entrepreneurial, say, isn't that only a few people? They need to do that. They start up, they make a lot of money. It's not true. So, Reid Hoffman, who's the founder and CEO of LinkedIn, actually recently in an interview said, every career is an entrepreneurial now, right? So it does not mean that everybody going to start a company, but given the drastically changing environment, given how AI is quickly changing and the speed accelerating within a large company or small company, you need to face you are facing the rapid change and challenge and opportunity and risk the same way that someone started up a new company. So this mindset, right? So entrepreneur is not it's like, well, it's a skill, but more is a mindset, right? So that's why a lot of what we call serial entrepreneurs, myself included, once you kind of acquire that mindset, you look at the world differently. So that's why people start companies, start companies, start company. They don't go back to work for a large company, because you look at the world differently. So in creating this kind of mindset, right? Is or what's important in this mindset. You're not happy. You challenge the status quo. You're not happy what you're given. When you see something that you don't like, you don't say, oh well, that's like it. You trying to think, well, can I change that? How can I make it better, right? And now, obviously, when you do that, you need creativity, the ability to think creatively, innovation, right? And value creation focus. So obviously you can do that, say, okay, I do that for the good of the society. But value creation does not necessarily mean monetary value. When you are an entrepreneur, when you're solving a problem, you think how your solution create value for the society, not for well, obviously for yourself, but for other people. The value, again, not necessarily only monetary value. Resilient and grit. Well, as you all heard, startup fail, 90% fail. How can you fail and get up and kind of, learn and continue to do it, right? And same thing, well, obviously everything, in the startup world, even in the world today, everything changed rapidly. Adapt it, right? Adaptability, how you adapt that. And finally, the last point is really important. And that's why, in fact, what motivates this class is that many students I talk to, they have great idea, right? Their students have never lack of idea. They usually have a lot more idea than than they can act on. But a lot of them kind of stay at that level, just ideas, right? They talk to their friend, they talk to me. I met a lot of young people, they're not students anymore. They have idea, but they never get to a point they're going to act on it. They will just keep talking and talking. So action, right? How do you, have to take your idea and have the ability and the willingness to act on it. So again, if those are the key, kind of skill set, right? And the key skill set that necessary, right, in the AI age. Unfortunately, again, there's the big disconnect between what the school is preparing, the student, and what the world is looking for, right? And again, so if you're only looking at exams and, there are already, data showing that AI, can do AP tests, at least in certain subject matter. I think biology was the first one, at 90 some percentile, right? So probably better than 90 some percent of students. At school, what the teacher is teaching, right? And the content and even the methodology of teaching, it still obviously hasn't really changed, right? You might start using some AI tool. Right? In fact, some of the schools discourage you to use AI tool. So now if you still teaching, like you did 20, 30, 40 years ago, well, obviously you're preparing a student for the job that's quickly disappearing, right? So what I believe is that AI is really redefining learning, education. Is not only obviously redefining what you should learn, but really how and where you should learn it. So I have this kind of, rather abstract, but like I'm thinking is that, in fact, we should learn outside the classroom, right? As much as possible, from classroom to marketplace. So traditionally, obviously, when you're classroom, you are, well, you're learning, you're taking tests, but a lot of those things are disconnected from what the real world needs, right? And AI can learn those probably faster than you could, right? And but how do you stand out? It has to do with a lot more about, you need to learn, get the experience, hands-on experience, how you solve real world problem, actual problems. So the world become your classroom, right? So just learn, is this figuratively, you don't have to go out the world to learn, but really, even you're sitting at homes, you're sitting in a classroom, the problem that you're addressing, the problem that you're thinking about should be in the real world. And this, in fact, if you look at college, what college is looking for, what employers looking for, right? I hire people both in the U.S. and China. What I'm looking for, right? When I talk to you, interview, you're really, well, the test score, is the baseline, right? It's no longer enough. You're really looking for what we call innovative trade, right? So if you look at the future innovation economy, obviously you look for people who have the ability to innovate. Well, what is that? Student, right, or young people, right, people that are looking for a job, your future employee, that has a genuine interest, their passion, right? As someone who have no passion, well, they get up, they don't really know what to do, they're motivated. So, as for college, for employer, I'm not looking for that people. But just a passion is not enough. You need to have the ability and the willingness to act on it. So what do you call it? Action oriented. So passion, if you kind of put it in two simple words, passion plus action.